Thank you, board members, for finding time in your day to connect with me. My name is Olivia Harris, and today I'll be discussing a new grant strategy for the Spina Bifida Association of Northeastern New York, otherwise known as SPANY. Let's take a look at our agenda. First, we'll review your organizational goals and funding streams as they pertain to your overall revenue mix. Then I'll walk you through my recommendations on how to develop a grant allocation that best aligns with your goals. This will lead us into a discussion on grant software before closing out with reviewing a high-level management plan. Let's kick things off with a brief review of your goals and funding streams. What are SPANY's organizational goals? While there are several in the strategic plan, there are two that are the most important and critical at this time. SPANY's primary goal is to improve your grant management strategy. It's my understanding that the $100,000 funding from New York State, which will be treated as a grant, is set to hit in 2022. Essentially doubling your current operating budget. Your secondary goal is to expand the reach of your services. When speaking with your executive director, Julia Duff, I learned that about 55% of SPANY's service population is outside of your established region of the Northeast, which essentially means that for now, those services are being provided for free without state support. Now, there's one thing that these two goals have in common, and that is the need to build your capacity. Ms. Duff is SPANY's sole full-time staff person, managing grants on top of everything else. As is the case with most processes in the nonprofit world, this system works until it doesn't. And with the New York State funding next year, it'll be impossible to properly manage grants and expand your services without a greater staff capacity. Let's look at the resources you do have. Here you can see 5 distinct revenue streams. Historically, fundraising has been the largest, with grants being the second largest. This chart shows the totals from last fiscal year, 2020. The line on the chart represents the fiscal year 21 budget. Understandably, grants were expected to more than double from 16% to 36%. I reviewed your FY21 forecast as of the third quarter. Let's see if grants are hitting that 36% mark. As you can see, grants have almost tripled, now bringing in nearly half of SPANY's total revenue. To me, this reinforces the need to develop a strong, improved grant management strategy. So what should SPANY's grant allocation strategy be? Well, your current strategy is more equals more. SPANY employs a strategy of applying for at least 1 grant each month with a stretch goal of 2 to 3 per month. Applying for more grants, though, does not always equal more rewards, but it does always equal more time, more tracking, more reporting, and more chasing deadlines. Let's discuss the possibility that less equals more. My recommendations are based on the 2 central goals we discussed earlier, the first of which is to build capacity to improve grant management. With your limited capacity, I suggest applying for a lower quantity of grants that have these characteristics. They are larger in award amount. The funder has a history of focusing on organizations that are entering an expansion phase, and grant award funds are unrestricted or restricted for overhead costs. This will allow SPANY to be more intentional with the resources you're devoting to grant funding. Your secondary goal is to build capacity to expand the reach of your service. The programs and services you offer cover 3 areas: medical, education, and awareness. Of these 3, per Ms. Duff, the most crucial is medical, specifically medical advocacy. This includes having representatives attend doctor's appointments and specifications, advocating for pregnant women whose babies are given a spina bifida diagnosis, and getting information out to high-risk OBGYNs. Given this narrow focus, SPANY should concentrate on medical-specific grants, funders that support causes in the medical industry, and general unrestricted grants. To enhance the likelihood of success with this strategy, employ these tips. First, make sure you're utilizing your connection with the National Spina Bifida Association to its fullest. Name dropping them in your applications will help build credibility to funders who maybe haven't heard of SPANY before. Develop and foster relationships with hospitals. They may have foundations of their own or work closely with others. This is about networking and leveraging your connections. Hospital personnel are going to have a much better understanding of the need for SPANY services and can advocate on your behalf with the network of funders. Lastly, embrace that you are a local organization with local funders. Local funders are much more likely to see the impact SPANY has on their community and will be more likely to understand the need to expand your services throughout the state. The strategy I've laid out for you is great, but it will not be possible to achieve or maintain without the proper resources, specifically grant software. Spainy utilizes one Excel spreadsheet to track grants. This is a screenshot of the grant tracking tab. If I wanted to know if we've ever applied for ABC grant in the past, where would I look? Right now, I'd have to pull up the same spreadsheet for each of the prior years and look at the same tab on all spreadsheets. As you can imagine, this is a completely unrealistic and inefficient way to track grants. The solution, proper grant software. Here are a few different programs that I would recommend the board look into. Salsa CRM is the most comprehensive, while Neon and Fundly are more cost-effective options. To round out our grant strategy presentation, I'd like to walk you through specific steps that Spainy leadership team can take to properly manage grants. The Project Management Institute, or PMI, is one of the world's largest nonprofit membership associations for project management professionals. They developed 5 phases of project management, which have become standard practice. They are initiation, planning, execution, performance, and closure. Let's dive into each one. Starting at the initiation phase, you will identify your needs. Again, you'll want to focus on capacity building grants this season. You will develop your case for support, utilizing volunteers to put your needs into writing. So when it comes time to apply for grants, you'll have a standard case for support to submit. You will also utilize your grant software to review grant data from prior years, identifying those grants and grantors that have had success in the past. The second phase, planning, is perhaps the most important and time-consuming. Here, you will set clear goals. Most likely, your annual budget will already be set. Make sure to review it and ensure your goals for the grant season can be achieved with the budget you'll be working with. With this clear direction, you will then research and choose which grants you'll be applying for. Enlist the help of volunteers for as much of the research as possible. Once you know which grants you'll be applying for, develop a grant calendar and check it frequently. Depending on which software you go with, you should be able to input or upload your calendar directly into the software. Lastly, apply for those grants. Be mindful of proposal requirements. As the board, you should be utilized as a second set of eyes on applications before they're submitted. Execution. This phase is all about the data. Here, it will be especially important to have grant software in place. You'll be tracking which grants are applied for and when, the amount requested, your notice of awards or denials, and any other information. At any given time, you should be able to run a report from your system to show the status of each application. You'll use this information to forecast your grant revenue on a regular basis, monthly if possible. During the performance phase, you'll take the updated forecasts and compare them against your goals, essentially forecasting your success in meeting each of them. If needed, this is where you'll adjust your plans, perhaps apply for additional grants, and update your calendar. You will also be tracking your use of resources. Finally, closure. In the last phase, you'll perform your reporting requirements. It's likely that part of this will be taking place during the course of the grant award. You can use this as an opportunity to send handwritten thank you letters to grantors or find other ways to maintain strong relationships with them. In addition, you'll evaluate the process as a whole, review your budget's actuals, and ensure all data is tracking in your software. With grants becoming Spainy's leading revenue source, it's critical that you have the tools in place to handle the amount of work that comes with grant funding. You can create a strong strategy by obtaining proper grant software, strategically allocating your grants and grant resources, and developing a structured management strategy. Utilizing the benefits of grant funding to their fullest will allow you to pursue your mission to build a better and brighter future for all of those impacted by spina bifida. As you become the most prominent resource for spina bifida support, awareness, and empowerment throughout the state, it will be important for you to use your resources, however limited, wisely, and set yourselves up to handle the growth that you have the potential to achieve and the growth that those impacted by spina bifida need. Thank you.